Dear all, as I was just about to upload my recording of my thoughts on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, the police have identified the shooter as Thomas Crooks. He is from the area. He's a 20-year-old. Just reading what little I could in the last 5-10 minutes, the first thing that struck me is what a waste of life. What a waste of life. 20-year-old shot dead. And he's younger than my younger daughter, and so it's such a tragedy that. While there are lots of confusing information about his affiliations, the fact that he's a registered Republican and voted for Hillary and Joe Biden, he couldn't have voted for Hillary because he wouldn't have been eligible to vote in 2016. If he's 20 now, he was also not eligible to vote in 2020. But anyway, so the shooter has been identified as a young white male, Thomas Crooks, and it'll be a while before the police are going to be able to sort out more details about his motivations and his political goals. There is a video out there which is being shared on X, where I don't even know whether it is Thomas Crooks, where he's saying that he hates Donald Trump and he hates Republicans. So we will see what eventually comes out, and it'll be, I think, not just a few hours, but just it may even take a few days before we get a full picture. Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about a very serious development in the United States. As you might have already heard, that there was an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. He was participating in one of his election rallies in the Butler County in Pennsylvania, and while he was giving a speech about 6 hours ago, a shooter took shots at him, hit him in the top of the ear, and also killed one of the persons who was attending the rally, and then he was killed by the Secret Service. So this shooter was on top of a shed-like building, and that was about 150 meters away from where Trump was speaking. Trump has survived. And he showed defiance, and he really got great. The photographs about his assassination, now that he has survived, are a goldmine for his campaign. And he came out there, he showed defiance, he showed his fist, clearly saying that he was not afraid. And so, his credentials to be the commander-in-chief have certainly shot up, at least in the eyes of his fan base. If anything could have galvanized his fan base more, I can't think of anything more than this, an assassination attempt on the former president, which he survives and then looks good during the assassination attempt. The President Biden has shown his statesman-like character by obviously wishing well for President Trump, and he has expressed in his opening statement that he will try and contact Donald Trump, who was at that time getting medical assistance. Actually, Joe Biden was here in Wilmington, and the Butler County is not very far from here. I think it's about like 60-70 miles from actually where we live here in Delaware. It would have been incredible if Joe Biden had taken a chopper and actually gone and seen Trump. He could have reversed a lot of negative feedback that he has been getting from his own party members if he had done that. But anyway, I'm not an advisor to his campaign, so his advisors didn't think of it. Anyway, so the president has not gone to the White House, and he is overseeing all the investigations that are going on. From the facts that we know is that the shooter is a white male. Law enforcement agencies have not disclosed his identity because they're still confirming it as I record this at midnight. but they hope to be able to announce in a few hours who he was. They haven't yet fully figured out the motivation. I mean, this is clearly an act of domestic terrorism. The word hasn't been used yet, but the law enforcement has not yet determined beyond any doubt as to who the shooter is and what his motive is. And they also are hinting that it's quite possible that he was not acting alone. They also suspect that there may have been bombs near the site, so they are investigating to make sure that there were no bombs, or if there were bombs, to clear the area. And perhaps they are also investigating who else may have been involved in this plot to assassinate former President Donald Trump. That's all the facts that I know. Two people have died, the shooter and one of the bystanders, and one person is critically serious and is in the hospital. We pray for their quick recovery, and congratulations for Donald Trump to survive this dastardly act against him. But I think this is a political bonanza for Donald Trump. And to some extent to Biden too. Now people will be talking about Trump and the assassination, and no one is going to talk about all the gaffes and the self-goals that Biden had been making in the past few weeks. So people are going to forget the debate. They're going to forget the fact that he introduced Zelensky as Putin and so on and so forth. And so people will be talking more about the assassination, and the motives and the conspiracy theories are already out there. So in that sense, this is better for Biden. I'm sure secretly most of the Democrats must be regretting that Trump has come out of this alive. And now he has a story to tell. The Republican convention is just around the corner, and I can imagine what he's going to say. First, they tried to take me off the ballot. Then they tried to put me in jail. Then they tried to kill me. They're so afraid of me. And that's going to be his speech, I guess, at the convention. In many ways, those people who had sort of, in the Republican Party, sort of become lukewarm to Trump's appeal or tired of Trump may now be galvanized. There will be definitely anger in the conservative ranks, and so it is quite possible that this will turn into basically an electoral bonanza for Donald Trump. I'm not very sure how it's going to impact the Democrats, especially if the shooter is, we don't know yet, but if it appears that the assassination was essentially a partisan attempt, then it's quite possible that it may dampen Joe Biden's appeal. And so in many ways you could say that when Trump got up and raised his fist to the crowd, perhaps he won the election at that moment. But in politics, 3 months is a long time. A lot could happen in the next 3 months. And so it is foolhardy to make any predictions, any ironclad predictions about the outcome. But at the moment, I think that this moment is going to be extremely beneficial. The Republicans are clearly already, the Republican spin is out there. They have two concerns. They want to milk this event as much as possible to show that it is the left which is the real extremist, not the right. The violence is coming from the left. Such an event has not happened in more than 40 years. The last time a president was targeted was Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, and now Donald Trump. From a campaign point of view, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt who was shot, who survived that. So in that sense, that is what the Republicans are going to do. But the Republicans also have a challenge in the sense that this will also once again draw attention to the availability of guns and the use. This was an assault rifle that the shooter used. And so while also talking about whether there was inadequate security provided to Donald Trump by the Secret Service, which reports to President Joe Biden. So there are going to be a lot of questions about Secret Service as to how could they let a man with a gun come within 150 meters of a former president in an election campaign, in a presidential election campaign. So there are going to be some very serious questions about the Secret Service. There is no doubt that this is a failure. It is quite possible that this is also a failure of imagination. The assumption is that the violence is going to come from the Republicans and the conservatives and not really against them. So perhaps they were not prepared for such an eventuality. And so essentially they were not ready for such an event. So I think there will be lots of questions about security, but there will also be questions about the discourse. I mean, there is a lot of polarizing discourse going on in the country, while you can see that there is a lot of hate coming from the right, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, xenophobia. I mean, these kind of statements against foreigners, against Muslims, against Jews, against women. So there's a lot of hate coming from the right, but there's also a lot of hate speech coming from the left, which hasn't been examined as critically by the media as hate coming from the right. So there will be discussions about this constant narrative that, oh, when Donald Trump wins, he's going to destroy democracy on day one. He's an existential threat to democracy. They are fascists. They are racists. They are Nazis. So these kind of commentary that comes from the left may get some attention and scrutiny. I hope it does. I hope it does. When Rabin was assassinated, Bill Clinton said that before violence happens, there will be violence via speech. And then real violence will follow. So the hatred that was being expressed towards Rabin during the campaign season there in Israel eventually led to his assassination. So using the same argument, I hope Bill Clinton will remember his old speech and use it again and argue that there is a lot of polarizing discourse taking place both from the right and the left. And I hope that this will awaken, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to happen. In fact, it's going to ratchet up. I was reading some comments on social media, and most of the liberals are claiming that this is a fake event. I mean, I saw literally hundreds of comments to that effect, saying that this is a fake event, this was all staged by Donald Trump, etc. I don't know why he would want to do that. He was already leading in the polls, especially in battleground states. And this event happened in Pennsylvania. That's also very important. In order for Joe Biden to win the elections, he has to win Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Michigan, and also perhaps Wisconsin. And it's difficult to predict how this event will impact the Pennsylvania, but I'm suspecting that Donald Trump is going to get a 2 or 3 point bump across the country for this. But as I also said, elections are 3 months away, and anything can happen from now until November. So for now, I think this is good for Donald Trump. But it raises a lot of questions about American democracy, American society, and where we are heading to. There are people who feel that there is a pretty good chance that America is heading towards a civil war. We are already in a war of words, definitely. The ideological disparities are getting wider and wider. For those of you who are familiar with the election outcomes in France, you might have noticed that the middle is disappearing. The center is disappearing. It was so spectacularly demonstrated by the French elections. The right and the far right was on the rise. The left and the far left is on the rise. What collapsed in France was the center. The Ensemble party of Macron came second, but it lost control of the parliament. So the gains were made by the National Rally, which got 37% of the vote, and also the left and far left. The New Popular Front also did well. The same thing is happening in the United States. So there is right extremism is on the rise, and there is also extreme wokeism, and extreme leftism is also on the right. And so there are two competing and extremely far apart visions of America, which are competing with very little tolerance for each other. So I think that this moment could be an opportunity for people for sensible discussions and sensible debate. But we'll see what happens. The Democrats, the leaders have come out and all are saying sensible things. I guess everybody's going to their Twitter account and telling ChatGPT, please provide me with a sensible and statesman-like tweet that I should make for this particular event. And so across the board, the statements are that there is no room for violence, such violence in politics in America, in American politics, and everyone is wishing that Trump is better. And of course, there are lots of other cynical comments by less prominent commentators saying that he deserves it because he has been inciting hatred. But to be honest, really, that not only is Trump inciting hatred, but there's also a lot of hatred being incited against Trump, which perhaps may get some attention in the media or may not. So we will see what happens going forward. But I think that the ball is now in the court of the MAGA supporters. They're clearly going to be very angry. Will this incite violence? Will this incite some kind of, shall we say, elevation of hate speech? Will it also make people more angry towards each other? That remains to be seen. And I do suspect that while there will definitely be a lot of anger among Trump supporters, I hope that the law enforcement agencies across the country really do not take these things lightly as they did on January 6th. The National Guard was not there. The National Guard should have been there protecting the Capitol on January 6th. There was enough intelligence to show that there were people coming there for doing whatever they wanted to do, which was essentially overturn the elections. So I hope that the National Guard and law enforcement across the country are on a high alert to ensure that there is no backlash from MAGA supporters. The fact that he survived with very little injuries probably will not trigger violence. If he had died, of course, probably there would have been blood on the streets. So I hope that things pacify very quickly. I do anticipate that the next few days are going to be very critical for American democracy. This election has now become even more consequential. And I think the next term, we are in a very difficult position. I think that if Trump wins, American democracy is at risk. If Trump loses, domestic peace is at risk. So we are in a catch-22 situation. And I hope that some sense prevails in the country. And America is one of the greatest human experiments with democracy and freedom. And unfortunately, the politicians of our time are squandering those achievements, which are achievements of all people on earth. So it's not just that American democracy is at stake, it is an experiment for the rest of the world. I come from India. India's constitution is modeled on American federalism. India's fundamental rights are based on America's Bill of Rights. So America has been a model for many democracies in the post-colonial world. And so it is very important that America continues to provide the example of a democratic society. And so decline of democracy in America can be dangerous, not just to America, but for the rest of the world. For those of you who are watching in India, I have done a conversation in Hindi. It's already posted, so you can check on it. I was also on the Lalan Top, one of the India Today Hindi portals, and you can also listen to my comments on that channel if you like. I will continue to monitor the situation, and we'll come back to you again tomorrow and try to essentially, I'm more interested in the direction in which the overall discourse is going, how the Democrats and the liberals are going to respond to this event. and of course how the conservatives and the Republicans react to what happened, and that is going to determine in the short term peace, harmony, and democracy in America. So until next time, please take care and be safe if you're in the United States. I would recommend that staying at home tomorrow is perhaps the smartest thing that you can do. So please, if you've not already subscribed to Khanversations, do subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and share it with your friends and your social political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.